I remember having conversations with you when you were at your lowest of the low. Talk to us about kind of the pathway and journey in terms of where you've come from.
So,
What is the importance of getting the right people on the bus with not only the right skill set, but the right cultural alignment? Because I know that's one of the things that you've spent a lot of time on.
yeah, I find it's
How did you put yourself in that driver's seat where you were prepared to recognize that you had a challenge and then, start to do something about it?
a day saying yes, I guess, is the lesson, rather than a day selecting and a month having potential problems.
If you want to sell a house, that's your personal choice because you want to, not because you have to. Welcome to episode 6 of The Life of a Business Leader. I am delighted to be joined today by Perry Power. Perry, I've got a question for you right at the start of our session. Is Perry Power your real name or is it a stage name?
I'm fortunate to say it's my real name. Yeah, it's done me well that over my career, to be honest.
That's the one thing that people ask me when I talk about you and Perry Power. They go, is that his real name or is that a stage name that he has for what he does? So I just thought we needed to clarify and tighten that one up right at the start of the session.
I guess a little tip for someone who is if their parents didn't name them like mine did me, maybe change it by Depot, because it's really helped a lot. I've sold houses 20 years ago and they're like, you sold my house 20 years ago. Because there's not many Perry Powers out there.
Well, if you think about it, there's Perry Power, and you and I do boot camps together. So there's Perry Power, there's Royston Guest. I've got another client whose name is Ronnie Ganguly. I think when you've got a name that is really memorable, it does help serve and work for you in terms of your personal brand. And I know you're really big on personal brands. However, let's get to the title of today's session because I want you to give us your take and spin on this. Because this title actually came from you. From breakdown to breakthrough growth. Why the road to business success is not always a smooth journey. So talk to me about why you wanted this as a title for our conversation, for our chat today, for this episode of The Life of a Business Leader.
So it's something that I've not spoken on publicly ever. And when you offered for me to be on the podcast, it was a real honor. And I thought to myself, how can I add the most value to that life of a business leader? And I guess sharing my story about having a mental breakdown 2 years ago. And here we are, kind of the darkest place of my life, actually, not even my business life. So hopefully listeners will get lots of value from it.
And Perry, I know the going to, which is why I wanted you to do the positioning of the title. And firstly, the one thing I think that always comes through loud and clear with you is that you are authentic. And I think really being prepared to open up and share your experiences will add so much value because it's a lonely place running a business. I think a lot of people on social media, there's a great quote that says, never compare your insides to somebody else's outsides. And the great thing is you are really authentic, but there's a lot of people who put up a cloak and a facade to the outside world where you never see what's actually going on in the real world. So I think this is going to be a really humbling opportunity, which I think a lot of business leaders will connect with because, we all have our bad days, our good days, but yours is a really humbling story. So talk to us about what happened, because obviously you're in a great place now, but I remember having conversations with you when you were at your lowest of the low. So talk to us about the kind of the pathway and journey in terms of where you've come from.
So it's that period. I mean, you were the one of two people that I was uncontrollably sobbing down the phone to. The other one was my mum. And we'll touch on that in a minute, but how it kind of led to it was just off the back of COVID. It was literally July, August 2022. And I collapsed in the shower like a bundle of mess at the bottom of the shower. Couldn't control myself. Sweaty palms just talking about it. I haven't really spoken about it since it kind of all went on. And I hadn't cried until that point, since the age of 14, when I had found out my granddad had died. So it's really weird, a whole weird place. But the long and the short of it was what kind of led up to it, and I'm sure we'll share some lessons in a little while, was coming off back of COVID, our business model, a few issues arose through COVID, and we lost out on about £250,000 worth of kind of help that a similar business to ours would have been getting from the government. So you're kind of fight or flight mode. You kind of hustle through it, do the best you can. And I think the pressure, we had our fourth baby during that period as well, bless her. She's an absolute angel. But I think the layering on of pressure and my expectation on myself, I just snapped pretty much into myself. So yeah, that's kind of what happened.
And how did you start work through that? Because I remember it, and you said it, and I wasn't going to go there unless you went there. But we were on Zoom, and you were sobbing, and it was quite a cathartic moment in time. How did you work through it, and how have you come out the other side? Because you can go to that lowest of low points, but resilience is about being prepared to confront reality head on. So I guess my first point to you would be, how did you didn't bury your head in the sand, which a lot of people might have done. You took comfort in and counseling a couple of people that you kind of really trusted. How did you kind of start to, when you got to that lowest of the low, how did you start to use that as a platform and a springboard to kind of incrementally build yourself back up again?
Looked in the mirror, took personal accountability, really, and the lead up. Let's not forget, like, I knew something was wrong with myself, because for a couple of months on the lead up to it, I didn't want to get out of bed in the morning. I kind of went from depression, I think, into full on mental breakdown. But I didn't want to get out of bed in the morning. I lost my mission, my vision. I'd lost my motivation, my mojo. I was kind of just wading through life, which was really horrible for me because, as you know, from the age of 12, I've had one massive mission. So it was like an out-of-body experience. And it's actually Christmas 2022 I have no memory of. Like, the whole period is just foggy. I can't remember much about it. I have to ask my wife where we went for Christmas 2022. Like, right. It's that. I can't remember. It's really, really odd. But to answer your question, like, therapy really helped a lot, both formal therapy, but also people that I really trust and admire. You being one of them helped me through it a hell of a lot. And you said something to me, which was a real switch, which I'll touch on in a minute. Support network, family members, team members, who aren't, some of those members, added to the pressure, I think. So they're no longer around in the business. So yeah, hard look in the mirror. I don't advise it to anybody, but once you've been that low, it's actually quite a cathartic moment, actually. And I wouldn't want anyone to get that low. I mean, I never had thoughts of the darkest of dark thoughts, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But it just completely wasn't me. It really wasn't me. So yeah, long, hard look in the mirror, support network, speak to only people that you trust and admire to help you through it. My wife is an absolute machine. If it wasn't for her.
Echo that. She's brilliant.
Yeah. My mum, just a close little network and a formal therapist. I had therapy for 3 months following it. And yeah, back in the game. Yes, there'll be challenges. There's loads of lessons that I'm sure we can touch on, but it kind of come about. And if I share this, you might find some routes to take this down, but it kind of come about because I was thinking about this before we come online, and it came about because I think I had too higher expectation of myself to push us through or take us through a period of life and business that I'd never walked that path before. So I was ill-equipped, shall we say. You said to me, your words to me were, which were crazy,
I'm
It
intrigued to know
was,
what these words were. Never mind. I was just trying to wrap my brain thinking about what I said at the time.
it's okay to pull back. So that was crazy. And I get goose pimples when I repeat that, because the level of expectation, I was trying to be, notes here is that I was too high expectations of myself.
Yeah.
I was trying to be everyone's saviour. I had huge guilt. I was guilty if I was working to kind of navigate the business through a tough patch, but then I was guilty for not working when I was with my wife and my child, who had just not long been born. So I was like the world's quickest paternity leave, which is probably a bad thing. And you said to me, Perry, mate, it's all right to pull back for a little bit.
Yeah.
And no one actually gave me that permission, not even myself. So that was really, really like, shit, he's right. Let's just chill for a minute. I've got a good team around me in the main. It will be all right. So that was a pretty crazy moment, actually.
And reflecting back on that now, because I wasn't sure what words you were going to say, but it's you mentioned there about giving permission. And alongside what you just talked about, there's two key expressions. And I think we put too much pressure on ourselves. And knowing you, Perry, I know the standards and the expectations that you set for yourself, which is in one sense, it's an enabling, winning behavior because you want to raise the bar and be the best that you can be. But also, if it's overplayed, it becomes a derailing behavior. And I'm sure that chimes with so many people. It works a yin and a yang and the bedfellows, but you've got to manage the blend between the two. And along to that expression, it's okay to pull back. Sometimes in life, I want to make this really practical for our listeners today, because if we can help people avoid getting to the lowest of the low and people can kind of come out the curve further up, then do you know what? Then if that's what they get out of today's conversation that you and I are having, brilliant. That it's okay to pull back, but sometimes in life to be selfless, you've got to be selfish.
That's another point, on my list. But I totally agree. One of my points here was the lessons is I learned to put my own gas mask on first.
Yeah, oxygen mask, not gas mask.
Oxygen mask.
Gas mask.
Can you cut that bit out?
No, we're absolutely not going to cut that bit out because that is brilliant. I thought you said you weren't having any dark thoughts in this moment.
That's hilarious.
You know what I love about these conversations, Perry, is, and I don't like editing stuff because the raw nature of an uncut conversation like this, that's what people really connect with. And I want people to really connect with the authentic Perry Power because you've got the likability factor like you would not believe. And I just know that this story and that we're talking about today and the title in terms of Breakdown to Breakthrough Growth is just so important that people hear this message. Well-being, health, mental health is such a fundamental challenge today. And the greatest wealth is not financial wealth. The greatest wealth is your health. And you've got to protect that at all costs. Without a doubt, that's my single most important message today. And it's better. Prevention is better than cure.
Exactly my point. Yeah, on here as well.
Sorry, am I nicking all your...
No. I learned to put my own oxygen mask on first. And, to what extent do you take that? But you take that to as far as you need to make sure that you are in a good place so you can serve your clients, serve your family, serve your friends. And that's really important because I was useless to Tash and the kids, absolutely useless. I was useless to my colleagues because I was in a dark place. And I kind of learned as well that you can't save everyone. That was big for me because, as you know, I'm a obsessed missionaholic, as I like to put it. I am a bit of a workaholic. That is my work. It's not work for me. It's something I do with my time. It's we don't dig up roads for a living and break our back. It's your brain. It's just strategy. It's your caring nature for your client. So I don't see it as work. So when I'm doing it, it's kind of just something I do. But because of that, because that's how I see it, I want the best for everybody. And because I've kind of done it for the last 20 years, built a personal brand as a good estate agent, building a corporate brand as an estate agency, I'm kind of like, I feel like I should be able to save everyone, but ultimately, if they haven't got it inside them, you can't want it. You can't want it for them more than you want it for yourself. And those people, you can't want it for them more than they want it for themselves. And those people in our business at the time were really affecting me badly, because I'm like, I'm doing everything I possibly can here. Why is it not happening for them? It's because of them. That's what wasn't happening, but I was taking the weight of that on my shoulders.
And can I just qualify one thing? Because I think this is really important for our listener today. You talked there about missionaholic, and there's no separation between personal and professional life. I get that, but you do have a clear demarcation. You do not work 24/7. When you're in the business, and you're focused. But just for clarity, you're also great at making sure you do have the family time now. You do take the holidays and so forth. So I just think you are so passionate about what you do, but that's not at the expense now of Tash, the kids, the dogs, all the family stuff that you do.
Yeah, I'd agree with that, and that comes back to one of the points here is get help, have a support network around you, and that goes down to our cleaner, for example. Tash works like a machine as well, so we have a cleaner, but we wouldn't be able to achieve what we want to achieve without people like that around us. Yeah. Same with team members, and I think I can always be better. At what point we're always juggling the balls, aren't we? But I'm very hot. This is a big influence. You've had this big influence on me. I'll never miss a sports day, and there's rules of personal life and rules of business life, and I'm very clear on my rules. I will work the odd Saturday here and there, but I will be off on Sundays, and I got 4 holidays this year. Those kind of things that are really, really important.
Perry, you talked about one thing earlier that I just want to kind of circle back into. And, you confronted reality head on. What I find is a lot of people are either sleepwalking through life or they're in autopilot mode. But then also, when people do have challenges, they almost go into denial. And rather than taking ownership and looking in their own mirrors and seeing what impact they might be having and taking almost personal responsibility and ownership for it, they go into denial, and it's everybody else's fault, and they're playing the victim as opposed to playing the victor. How did you put yourself in that driver's seat where you were prepared to confront reality head on, recognize that you had a challenge, and then start to do something about it, as opposed to falling in the other camp of being the victim of life? What was there a trigger in that moment, or how did you put yourself on the right side of that line?
I think hitting that bottom, it was very much like, right. And, off air, I was saying that you've got this is the kind of message that I keep telling myself, not to the extent of your life or your personal time, and it was kind of looking in the mirror. The reason I'm stressed over that person not achieving the goals that they set for themselves and we set for them is because of them, not because of me. As so it is partly because of me as much as it is them. So it's very much a case of it is your fault because you haven't helped them, you haven't had the conversation with them, whatever it might be. So I just, personal accountability, and I've got ourselves into this. You can blame COVID, you can blame whoever you want, but fundamentally as a business leader, you set the direction, steer the ship, set the pace, and I had admitted to myself that I had dropped the ball on that, hence why I'm in this dark place. So get yourself out of it. And off the back of that, I put here as one of the lessons was that I do believe I've become, a better, but a better, more intentional leader.
Oh,
because I had to be.
Without a doubt. And there's one thing I want to kind of throw at you, because I know in our conversations that we had, and it links to this being a better, intentional business leader. One of the things that I know created a lot of angst for you was about the amount of mental calories that you burned on supporting the team that you had. You had a couple of the wrong people. You had some square pegs, round holes. You had some people who wanted to take, but they never gave anything back. What was the point at which you went, actually, and for our listener, what is the importance of getting the right people on the bus with not only the right skill set, but the right cultural alignment? Because I know that's one of the things that you've spent a lot of time on.
Yeah. I find it's, it's everything. And what was interesting, part of the reason why I got into that place in the first place is because for the first few years of the business, it was pretty much all running on my steam. Because it was all the Perry Power Show for many years, because that's all I had was myself, a mobile phone, limited marketing budget, self-funded, sell a house, make a bit of money, reinvest it, blah, blah, blah. But then when you realise, actually, I think we had about 13 agents at that point, and I was trying to lead in the same way, but realising that it was absolutely had zero to do with me at this point, apart from leading, helping and coaching and mentoring. So, and it's a lot harder to get them off the bus than to get them on the bus, first of all. I learned that the hard way as well. So, the whole process of matching cultural alignment, getting crystal clear. We had a bit of a cultural shift as well through COVID, and that caused some problems. And I didn't expect them ultimately, so my expectations weren't clear. I thought we could change the business from an office-based business to more of a remote business, and it'll all be fine. But there's problems that took a couple of years to kind of iron out. Other people in the business having similar issues, but becoming very they handled their issues very differently, and as a result, we've now got a 10-year stalking and protection order against a past team member. That kind of took its toll mentally on everything else that was going on. So choose, spend a month selecting and a day saying yes, I guess, is the lesson, rather than a day selecting and a month having potential problems.
So let's unpack, because there's two different things I want to kind of go a bit deeper with there. One is you ultimately helped some people deselect and get off the bus who weren't culturally aligned with the business. On hindsight and reflection, and life's great when you look backwards, do you think you could have speeded up the process of getting people off the bus faster? Do you think you were too tolerant of misalignment of culture, values, behaviors? And is there anything you've learned from that now that you are faster with now as a more intentional leader?
100%. But more from not suppose a cultural thing, because everybody that's ever joined us has come to us asking to join. So we've never needed to recruit or use recruitment agents, or we've got a waiting list of 174 people to join Power Bespoke. And I thought that was a great thing. Oh my God, amazing. Let's get them all on board. So it's more they liked our kind of, they were attracted to our business. So they kind of got the culture, the vibe, I guess, if you like, they do things differently. I've got a very personal mission of improving the estate agency, but I've got our kind of business mission is to redefine it. So it was more a case of looking back, people that I did allow to join the business, now that knowing what I know now, would never have joined in the first place. I'd never have allowed them to join. But also what I did learn, the main thing I learned was crystal clear expectations.
Yeah.
And it took me 10 years to learn that. But do you know what? It makes life... I've got people joining next month, and they're very clear. If after 3 months they're not on this level, then they already know we're going to shake hands. So that is the thing that I lacked. It was like, join, we'll do this because I've done it, and it'll be... But there was no real... Because I judge through my own... We all do, I guess. We all judge through our own glasses. So I thought, because I'm obsessed, extremely mission-driven, yes, everyone aligns with the mission, fine. Who doesn't want to redefine an industry? But in reality, they didn't. So it's having those kind of telltale signs, those markers, those gates, those milestones that we're making crystal clear, so there's no awkward decisions in 3 months' time.
So what I'm hearing is the talk and the walk for a lot of people can be misaligned. That the expectation management in terms of this is what I'm going to do for you and this is what we want in return in terms of what good performance looks like. And there's clear gates now that says if you don't meet the criteria, either performance or behaviorally, then actually we'll shake hands and go, we gave it a go, but that you'll part company.
Yeah. And from my perspective, I've got a very compartmentalized brain that just helps me so much as well, because I also don't like any, where I've grown as a leader is I've always avoided those awkward conversations.
Yeah.
Because they were never made clear that we were going to have them from the start, potentially have them from the start. But now it's, and this is the importance of a great team around you, is through the dark times of a couple of years of kind of treading water, we've only really got back to growth this year. 2024 has been a great. 2023, to be fair, was a really great year for us, but we've muddled through the past couple of years with the least amount of team members that we've ever had, but we've made the most amount of profit we ever had as well. So that's quite a telltale sign.
But isn't there something ironic in that? That if you get the right team who are motivated in the right way, that actually less is more. That you don't need 13 agents who were all at different levels of performance, all at different levels of commitment, actually created so much and consumed so much of your time that you couldn't see the wood for the trees, and therefore you couldn't really unlock the potential. And actually having half a dozen people who are really motivated, inspired, and want to earn the right money, add value, buy into the mission and everything else is actually a better model than the 13 was.
And that's so true. And one of the things that I've done that you helps us with is literally, whether they're employed or they're a partner agent or whatever, it doesn't matter. They're a team member as far as I'm concerned. We're on the same mission. Is that they put to me their 12-month plan, but broken down. Like, I don't give it to them. And I used to give it to them. I say, all right, you want to do 200 grand a year. Well done. This is how you do it. Whereas now it's literally a case of, you want to do 200 grand a year. Amazing. That's the goal you set for yourself. Show me how you're going to achieve it on a weekly, daily, monthly, weekly basis. And let's do it together. Here's what we'll do to help you achieve it. But if after 2 months they haven't done their part of the bargain, then there's not a great deal I can do for them.
But doesn't that link back to the point that you made earlier, that you can't want something for somebody else more than they want it for themselves? So therefore, they've got to be self-motivated, and the desire and will to succeed and where they set their own personal standards of excellence has got to be higher than yours. And then you can unlock their potential. You can performance lead them, but they're the ones that are hungry and driving it every single day.
But what got me into a dark place was that I was creating these plans for them. I was saying what you need to do and when you need to do it. They weren't doing it. I was then getting annoyed with myself that they weren't doing it, and it's almost be my fault. But so just a slight change, and it sounds simple when we're talking about it like this, but I don't know any other business owner that does that, actually.
Yeah. That truly empowers people to go, what do you want to earn? This is what performance looks like. Create your own plan. And the expression I use all the time, Perry, is that people who create their own destiny will deliver their own destiny. And if I give you a plan, it's not your plan, it's my plan. And I think one of the challenges for business leaders, you hear so often people say, that's not my vision, that's Perry's vision. That's not my values, that's Perry's values. That's not my plan, that's Perry's plan. So unless you empower and enable and create the environment where people can bring their passion and energy and give them the framework that they can plug into, but they've got to create it or else they won't have that drive.
And it's interesting when you lead like that. I've started to become the person that gives them permission, as in like the permission he gave me to kind of pull back a little bit and chill out. Your fourth baby, just take a bit of time to chill. it's the same. So one of our agents put their plan to us, and I was like, I'm all for reaching the stars, but it has to be realistic as well. In your first year, no one's ever done that, neither have I in their first year of business with us or in general. So let's kind of pull back a little bit, otherwise you're going to feel defeated. We talk a lot, you talk a lot about kind of your hard deck and your stretch goal. So I'm giving them, they're like, oh, okay, I just thought we have kind of all guns blazing. And I'm like, we kind of do, but we always be realistic with it, because I don't want you to feel defeated if it doesn't come to fruition. Year 2, let's talk another level. Like let's double your year 2 projections, because by that point you would have so many good things going for you. So it's really interesting how it's way more rewarding doing it that way as well.
So Perry, we've got 15 minutes left. I want to make this really practical, because you are out the other side. You talk about being a more intentional leader now and a better leader. Your business is more successful than it ever has been. You've got that forward momentum. The flywheel is turning. So you've talked about the importance of your mission. You've talked about getting the right people on the bus. What is the checklist, the mental checklist that, listening to you and I talk now, people can create in their minds about, in the next 15 minutes, the enablers for success that have really got your flywheel turning in the business and got you on this pathway now where you are building a phenomenal business that is really disrupting the estate agency market? What are some of the things that the recipe for success?
So as you know, I'm extremely disciplined, structured, focused. So one of my recipes of success now, out the other side, is me time goes in the calendar first. So that's tennis twice a week. That's bed at 10 p.m. Those 2 things are all I need to function. Then obviously you've got your family goes in next, and some people watch this or listen to this thinking, oh, your family should be first, but I really cannot get across enough that's not true. Has to be you. That if you've got people relying on you, then you have to prioritize yourself. I'm not saying like 6 days a week down the pub from 10 till 4. Maybe not, that's a bit too far, but bed at 10 o'clock, tennis twice a week, whatever your thing is, get it in the diary. Then put your date nights around it. Then put your family time, your kids time, your all that kind of stuff. That's one of mine. Structure your work around your personal life, not the other way around.
That's a really...
As much as I work, still very, I say work, ridiculous hours each week through a want, I kind of feel like I've started again. So what's really interesting is through this whole cathartic period, 10 years later, I've kind of reborn and started again. The only benefit is I've also got a brand that's really well respected to build off of. I haven't got to knock doors anymore. I can grow it with leadership and strategy rather than sheer tenacity. So that would be a huge one. Get yourself, your family, your friends, and then what you'll find is there's not that much time left to do much else. So then you need to get good, get great.
And focus and discipline comes into play.
Yeah. You've a tip for, I have an hour a week of personal development time. So that's for me. That kind of comes to my professional goals, but it should be a lot more than that in most people's life. But for me, if I get an hour a week in there, then I'm outside of our coaching sessions and whatever else. But read a book, listen to a podcast, whatever it might be. That's one of them.
But Perry, also going back to your point about being a more intentional leader now, is there something about how you finally made that transition from being a world-class personal estate agent to being a business leader that runs a team of world-class estate agents? Is that, surely that must be part of that reborn that you talk about, the rebirth of Perry Power 2.0, Power Bespoke 2.0, because it really feels like now you've got a team of elite people who are knocking it out the park every day.
Yeah, that comes back to get help. So I think the pressure that I had on myself was I was trying to navigate a team of the size I've never experienced before. I was trying to navigate so much, and I didn't know I didn't have a clue how to do it ultimately. So that all came from getting help from you, books, podcasts like this, and just switching, I guess, to be like, I'm gonna level up. I need to level up if I'm gonna see this business to its next stage. And all businesses, I guess, you get to a stage, you plateau, you get to a stage, you plateau. And I felt like the business, I wasn't growing ahead of the business. And that's one thing that I've learned from you that you have to do.
Okay, so you went on a personal growth journey that got you ahead. Also, I mean, you are phenomenal at automating the business. And by automating, I mean how you use tech, which I'd like you to share because you're massively tech enabled. But what you haven't done is you've still recognized the people human element of a state agency. So what's incredible is how you blend the tech with the people. You've got a phenomenal recruitment process now. So how have you packaged all that lot together to create almost a turnkey machine that, whether it's recruiting people, tech, automation, data, all that surely is part of the recipe for success that you've created now?
Yeah. So we've relied heavily on tech, or we now do rely heavily on tech. But what's really interesting is it all comes from a position of this one sentence, that tech is there to enable your team, not replace them. So when you come at it from that perspective, we've got, I want to make sure just as a little example, I want to make sure that our agents are as efficient and productive as possible, and that our clients get the world's best experience when moving house. And one little thing that we could do, viewing feedback. We're an estate agency. Every time someone views a house, the seller needs to know their feedback. That's obvious. Not that obvious as an industry, but it is very obvious to us. So we automate asking them the question at 9 o'clock every morning without fail. It doesn't not get done because you're running late on the school run or you're stuck in traffic. There's always good, valid reasons for something not getting done, but it just has to get done on time every time. So we automate it with a text message, and at 9 a.m. and by 9:20, 80% of the people who've replied say it'd be great if you can give me a call when you get a mode to discuss it. Absolutely fine. We don't want to interrupt people's lives. We want to help them. Some say thanks, but garden's a bit too small. So that's a great example of where technology, if on a busy Monday morning you've had 15, 16 viewings, it would take you 3 or 4 hours to ring through all those people, get mostly voicemails on a Monday morning. Then you've got a delay getting your client their feedback. So something like that is how I see technology, because then the client's agent still has to deliver it. Isn't like we then collect it with tech and then insist that the client logs in to read it with tech. No, the agent delivers the advice, the experience, but gathering it is automated.
I love that. If you didn't capture that expression that Perry talks about there, tech is there to enable your people, not replace your people. And that's definitely been part of your kind of recipe for success and why you are successful, and so successful, should I say.
I guess the slight caveat on the other point on that, which comes hand in hand, I think will hopefully help people, is whenever you're looking at tech and automation, you should go with that kind of approach, then ask yourself, can we automate it? The chances are the answer is going to be yes. But then the next question should be, should we automate it? And many times the answer will be no.
Yeah, like that. Because that's the bit where the rubber meets the road, where the human part is so important of the experience.
That's where your recommendation comes in. That's where, it's the points where your recommendation's at its biggest. It's the points where the expertise delivering to the client, don't log into an FAQ area to get information. There's some things where clients need to have a one-on-one conversation with a person and not a bot. There's so much more that I could do with technology, knowing what it's capable of, but I won't do it because I don't agree that it should be done.
And the one thing with all the great things you've talked about there, the one thing that the business has now allowed you to do is you are religious around your balcony time, aren't you? And making sure that you kind of get that time on the business and not in it. You're not chasing around. So for example, your personal sales that you do not need to go out there and sell houses for the business to be successful. You've got a team of people who do that. So if you want to sell a house, that's your personal choice because you want to, not because you have to. And I think that's a major difference in terms of where you've got to with the maturity of the business now.
Yeah, because I knew that I wouldn't be able to lead the business unless I had the time to lead the business. And estate agency is an all in or all out kind of thing. So I do run one client at a time right now out of choice, and I probably will until my last days, because that's what my mission was originally set up to do. And but every half a day, every first Monday of every single month is blocked out of the office somewhere where I can just look through our measures that matter for the previous month to see problems coming a lot earlier. And I also actually, this is quite interesting. Like I don't think I would never have those changes ever again. I expect a bit more now, that when you're trotting a path that you've never done before, that it takes you to levels or areas that your brain hasn't managed to comprehend or get its head around yet. You're going to get some wobblies, no doubt, at times, and makes it easier if and when it does come. Hopefully it doesn't come, but there'll be challenges. Government changes are coming up now, so bring it on, because that's going to cause a lot of change. I could sit here worrying about it, but I know it's likely to happen, so let's start planning for it early.
Do you feel better equipped now to face whatever life throws at you from a personal and a business perspective?
Yeah, 100%. But what's the most important thing of that is I now know how elastic my rubber band is. So I say I snapped. It's like a rubber band that when it was pulled too much, it snapped. And that for me was my moment in the shower, in a ball of a mess on the shower floor. But I now know where that level is, and I won't let myself get to it.
Brilliant. I tell you what, Perry, it's one, it's a joy to have this conversation with you, because I've just seen how you've grown so much, and I absolutely know that this will have chimed and resonated with so many business leaders out there. Not only your personal story, but also then how you've come out the other side, and you are a breakthrough growth. You have got a machine now that the flywheel is absolutely turning, and the momentum is behind you. Great brand, great people, great reviews from clients. So you should be unbelievably proud of where you've got to. So if you were to share, I always like this question as an end. If you were to share some final thoughts with our listeners as they exit from this conversation that we're having, what would be your parting words or thoughts that you want to leave them with?
It would absolutely be around team. I used to think, this is what I would put it as, alone you can go fast. Alone you can go fast. Together you can go far.
Nice.
But the caveat of that is that, in brackets, with the right people. And if it weren't for our core at Power Bespoke, I'd never have got through that horrible 3 to 6 month period. And you know who those core are. They rolled with the punches. They took it on the chin, whatever I had to do. Some threw their dummies out of their pram. I respected it. I totally understand. I respected and expected it. And so, they're doing great things now, I'm sure. But it's that core, secure your core, that we talk about in many different facets of that saying. But yeah, team, for sure.
Love it. And if people want to drop you a message or want to send you a message after listening to this podcast, where can they get a hold of you?
Facebook, Instagram are the main channels that I work on. If you Google Perry Power, there is one other in the world, but we look a little bit different. So they'll come up alongside me.
There's only one Perry Power. There's only one of those that exists. Perry, from myself and all the listeners, thank you so much for giving up your time. I know I feel this bad from having the conversation. I'm sure our listeners will. And if you've liked what you've heard today, make sure you share it. There's more people who need to listen to these real world stories that our business leaders are sharing on the Life of a Business Leader podcast. From me, Royston Guest, your host. Until next time, bye for now.